Valentine's Day is around the corner, and if you're a nigga like me, you're probably gonna be lonely for Valentine's Day. It's completely normal for that to happen. It happens to the best of us, but we gotta keep our heads up and we gotta persevere through these times. So I thought to myself, since this Valentine's Day is gonna be a little bit lonely for myself, what can I watch that can actually fill in the Valentine's Day gap in my life right now? So I thought to myself, what if I watch a Valentine's Day movie? As I was surfing, I couldn't really find any current good Valentine's Day movie, but I now stumbled upon a movie called Love Hurts, and it got released earlier this week. I thought that this movie would be good. When I was actually looking at the trailers, I looked at some of the fight scenes. Some of the fight scenes looked pretty promising in the trailer, so I thought to myself, okay, let me take my lonely ass to the movie theater so I can watch Love Hurts in hopes of filling the Valentine's Day void that is in my life right now. But I'll be completely honest with you guys, the movie is titled Love Hurts, but this movie really hurts. This movie is really painful, and I'm not saying this in a good way. I'm saying this in a bad way. I'm saying this in a horrible way. I'm saying this in the worst way imaginable and the worst way possible, because this movie is trying to be too many things at once. It's trying to be a love story between Marvin Gaye and Rose. It's also trying to be a comedy because it's having Marvin Gaye be this happy-go-lucky person that works as a real estate agent, but it's also trying to be an action movie. It's also trying to be a serious, bloody, gory action movie that has many deaths, that has some crazy fights, and that has a lot, and I mean a lot, of blood and gore. But the thing about this movie is that if you're trying to be too many things at once, you are nothing, in my honest opinion. If you're trying to be a comedy, if you're trying to be a love story, if you're trying to be an action movie, and if you're trying to tell a story about a man who is trying to run from his past, but the past is catching up with him in his current present life, then this movie falls short, in my honest opinion, man. And I'm looking at the reviews for this movie. It's not looking good for this movie so far. It's looking horrible on all fronts, and I think I know the reason why, and that is this movie is just pretty lame, in my honest opinion. The premise is pretty lame. That's why the runtime is an hour and 23 minutes, because the story that they are trying to tell in this movie makes no sense, and it's so ass that I can see why they tried to make this movie as short as humanly possible. But let me stop yapping to all of you guys and let me tell you the real reason why this movie is so ass by talking about the plot of this movie. And the movie starts off with a man called Marvin Gaye. He is a former hitman turned successful realtor. He is a real estate agent that he works for his mentor, Cliff Cusick. And Marvin Gaye, he is a very acclaimed real estate agent. He has helped so many customers in buying a lot of good, fancy, and wealthy homes. And throughout the neighborhood and town that he lives in, everyone knows him, everyone loves him, everyone really likes him. And he's a very nice guy. He's a very generous person that when he's riding his bicycle to work, he will wave at you and he will say hey. He says hey to everybody, and he is very optimistic about life. But as soon as we see Marvin Gaye, we are noticing that he is trying to hide something. But when he reaches his job, he now meets his coworker. I truly forgot about this name because this movie is truly forgettable. But his coworker, she is very pessimistic. She is very sad, and she's basically the complete opposite of Marvin Gaye, because as Marvin Gaye, he is looking forward to the future. He is looking forward in life. She is not looking forward in anything. She really wants to look backwards. If anything, she's the complete opposite of Marvin Gaye in this movie. She is so pessimistic that she does not want to be alive anymore. She wants to unalive herself. That is what she said in her own words. So when Marvin hears that, he reassures her that everything in the future is going to be okay, and he tries to give her some good advice, and he tells her that, look, if you really want something, you have to work your hardest to get that thing. You have to try your hardest, and you have to be optimistic about what you want in life. But after this little exchange happens between both of them, we see that Marvin is kind of in a rush because he is expected to receive an accolade, a worthy accolade of selling the most homes, and he is about to receive this accolade from his mentor slash boss slash friend Cliff Cusick. But before he receives this accolade, he is interrupted by this bounty hunter, and to be honest with you, I completely forgot this bounty hunter's name. But before I even continue, there are a lot of names that I completely forgot about because this movie is so forgettable. I only know the protagonist's name, that is Marvin Gable. I only know the antagonist name, that is Knuckles Gable, and I only know the supporting protagonist, and that is Rosa. But I'm gonna be completely honest with you, this movie has so many forgettable characters that you can literally blink and nothing will happen. You can literally sleep and nothing will happen that is of note in this movie. You can literally sleep for weeks, you can sleep for years, you can sleep for eternity, and you can sleep good knowing the fact that you did not miss anything important in this movie. So that's how I'm gonna be treating this movie, to be honest with you. But this bounty hunter, he now interrupts Marvin in his own office, and he confronts Marvin by saying that, look, we have been looking for you. We need to find where Rose is, and you have to come with me, alive or not. It doesn't matter to me. Now, this bounty hunter, I'll be honest with you, he's pretty cool in this movie. This bounty hunter, he looks pretty cool. I don't remember his name, but the way that he looks, the way that he acts, the way that he talks, I think that his talent was wasted in this movie. I think that, in my honest opinion, he should apply for Marvel or for DC or for, hell, even John Wick, because his skills in this movie are pretty good. His fighting skills and his demeanor is pretty good. Now, let me stop glazing this guy and let me tell you how his first fight with Marvin Gable went. And the first fight was pretty stupid, in my honest opinion, because they're fighting in Marvin Gable's office, right? They're making a lot of noises. They're making a lot of loud bangs in his office, because when Marvin, he's trying to evade this bounty hunter's blades and knives, they are clashing and colliding with Marvin's desks, with Marvin's floor, and with Marvin's walls. Now, you would think that an office like this that is so closed in, sure, yeah, there are a lot of people currently in the office, but you would think at least a couple of people would hear these bangs. No, the only person that hears these bangs is Marvin's coworker, and that is so coincidentally contrived for this plot. They made it seem that the only person that can hear it is her, because this will further the plot. But that is stupid and that is illogical, in my honest opinion, because in a office like this, if you hear loud bangs, I'm pretty sure at least 4 people would walk into Marvin's office and ask if he's okay. But then the fight ends when Marvin temporarily incapacitate this bounty hunter, and at first I thought that this bounty hunter would die, because when Marvin, he was about to leave the office, the girl, she actually knocks on the door and asks Marvin if he's okay. Then Marvin, he's still holding the bounty hunter in place, and he tells the girl, look, oh, everything's okay, everything's fine, nothing you need to worry about. Then she closes the door. Then Marvin not incapacitates the bounty hunter. But after this, when Marvin, he walks out and he now meets Cliff Cusick and he is disoriented, you would think someone else would try to investigate all of these loud bangs and all of these loud thuds, and nobody does that for the entire day, because after Marvin, he receives his plaque, he receives his accolade, nobody goes into that room except that girl. Now, let me stop calling her that girl. Let me actually find her name. I think her name is Ashley. Yeah, so let me start calling her Ashley. So Ashley, she stumbles upon the bounty hunter's almost lifeless corpse in Marvin's office, and she is stunned. She is shocked to see this man who is potentially dead in Marvin's office, and she would call Marvin to ask, yo, who is this guy here? And she now notices that this guy has this book of poems, of riddles, and she goes through the books of poems and riddles, and she is loving what she's seeing. She is realizing that, okay, this must be what I've been looking for. The advice that Marvin Gable gave to me earlier today to find what I really want and to find what I really love is right in front of me. And this thing that I really love, this person that I really love, is this bounty hunter. When I saw that, I was like, so you mean to tell me that throughout the entire day, no maintenance crew, nobody that was in the staffing, no coworker, no boss came into Marvin Gable's office and noticed this body except Ashley? That shit made no sense in my honest opinion. But back to the real main story, and the real main story is this girl Rose. So now, in the beginning of the movie, there were some clues about Rose's whereabouts. She was seen like drawing some Hitler mustaches on Marvin Gable's like promotional posters or promotional seats, promotional, benches throughout the entire neighborhood / town. And later in the movie, we see that Marvin Gable will soon meet Rose, but before he meets Rose, in Marvin Gable's house, he is attacked and ambushed by two bounty hunters that are trying to kill Marvin Gable. And these two bounty hunters, I'm gonna call them Thin 1 and Thin 2 because they have a collective brain of one person, because that's who they basically are. They're basically two dumb criminals that just have one goal, and that is to kill Marvin Gable. But they failed in doing that. And when Marvin Gable is almost dead, he literally is jumping through fences. He's jumping through a lot of fences and he is trying to escape. He is now basically kidnapped by Rose because Rose, she shoots him with an electric taser, and this causes Marvin to pass out. But the fight scenes in this movie, they're pretty good. I'll be honest with you. The fight scenes are pretty good. It feels like they actually really tried in this movie in making the fight choreography look good on the big screen. But in my honest opinion, having great fight scenes, having great action does not excuse this movie for having a trash and a lackluster story. And in my honest opinion, having trash dialogue and having trash interactions between the characters, because Rose, the actress that plays Rose, is Ariana DeBose. And look, I know Ariana DeBose is probably a good actress, right? But her recent track record is not looking too good because her most recent movie was Kraven the Hunter. That trash booty hot dookie Kraven the Hunter. So the fact that she's in this movie is not really looking too good for her resume, man. But Rose as a character, I'm sorry, her dialogue was insufferable. She felt so cliche in my honest opinion. And when she was telling Marvin that, look, I was inevitably supposed to come to you because our fates are intertwined, she was basically going on her backstory and basically showing us what happened in the events prior to this movie. And the events is that Marvin, he was a former bounty hunter and he was a former mercenary that worked for his brother Knuckles. But Marvin, he defected from Knuckles' quote-unquote company by saving Rose's life. And the way that he saved Rose's life was because Rose and this Russian, who will soon be the other antagonist in this movie, and some other person named Kippy, they actually conspired against Knuckles to steal $2 million of the total $4 million that Knuckles was supposed to receive. This caused Knuckles to send Marvin to Rose to kill Rose and make sure she's dead. But Marvin, he did not want to do that. So then he basically faked Rose's death. But now that Rose has reappeared suddenly, it's causing all these bounty hunters, it's causing that Russian mafia guy that's the other antagonist, and it's causing Knuckles to try to locate Marvin and Rose so that they can kill Marvin and Rose. Now, what I just said is basically the entire plot of this movie. We will basically see the same scenes repeated throughout this movie where Marvin and Rose, they narrowly escape being captured, being killed, being incapacitated by the same bounty hunters. I'm telling you, they sent Thin 1 and Thin 2 again to kill Marvin again in the movie, because the first encounter that Thin 1 and Thin 2 had with Marvin, they were outmanned, they were outgunned, and Marvin, he narrowly escaped. But the second time, they brought the big big guns. They brought the AK-47s. They brought the sawed-off shotguns. They brought the shotguns, but still, they could not defeat Marvin. And when they actually came the second time, Marvin was in the middle of two things. He was in the middle of interrogating Kippy, because Kippy, you know, he's tied into this whole big plot that is consisting of Rose and the other Russian guy. But Marvin was also trying to sell that house as a real estate agent. So these two bounty hunters, Thin 1 and Thin 2, now crash the party. But coincidentally, let me go back to Ashley's side plot, because this ties into this encounter, because Ashley, she managed to wake up the bounty hunter, the cool bounty hunter, and she manages to fall in love with the bounty hunter. But the reason why she comes to this location is because Marvin tells Ashley, look, you gotta come with some documents that I need, because this family just bought this house. So Ashley reluctantly comes to the house with the bounty hunter, but the bounty hunter comes to the house in hopes of killing Marvin. But when this happens, the bounty hunter now reluctantly has to work with Marvin to kill the other two bounty hunters, Thin 1 and Thin 2. And after they now defeat Thin 1 and Thin 2 and they kill Thin 1 and Thin 2, the bounty hunter now turns on Marvin and attempts to kill Marvin, but Ashley gets in the way, and Ashley is trying to tell the bounty hunter that, look, please don't do this, don't do this to Marvin. And I'll be completely honest with you, this is where I kind of checked out. So I kind of don't really know what happened to Ashley and the bounty hunter after this, but I know that they survived in the movie. I know that they actually kissed later in the movie and they had a different lives at the end of the movie. But I forgot this whole part because this movie was so boring and it was so repetitive. So I checked out up until the end, and at the end we see that Rose, she actually steals one of Marvin's cars and she now drives away. But that car that she stole, Marvin actually really needed that car because that was Cliff Cussick's car. But Cliff is killed off by Knuckles because Knuckles was interrogating Cliff for some reason. I think Cliff wanted to get back his car, but Knuckles was at Marvin's house and Knuckles now killed Cliff. But at the end of the movie, we see that all the characters are all in one place. The other antagonist, that's a Russian mafia guy, Rose, has been captured. Knuckles captured Rose, and now Marvin, he is driving to the location to see if he can save Rose. So when Marvin goes to the location, Marvin, he is now confronting his brother, and his brother has been manipulating Marvin throughout Marvin's life. His brother basically used Marvin as a bounty hunter to do whatever Knuckles wanted to do. So we see the final fight of Knuckles and Marvin, and before that fight we see Marvin and Rose fight the mercenary that Knuckles hired. And like I said earlier, the fight scenes are good, they're pretty decent in my honest opinion. They have some great choreography, but remember, that does not excuse this movie being hot dookie in my honest opinion. But after that, we now see Knuckles and Marvin fight. Knuckles tells Marvin, look, I've always been stronger than you, you have no chance. They fight. It's a pretty decent finale fight, but after the fight, you know, we thought that Knuckles would die. But when Marvin, he goes to Rose and says it's over, Rose has a gun and she now shoots Knuckles in the shoulder. Rose now tells Knuckles that, oh, all of the little schemes you've been doing, yeah, I told your distributors, I told your plugs that you have been scamming them. So then the real big guys, the real big dons of Knuckles now come and now take Knuckles as hostage. And the movie ends with Rose kissing Marvin finally, and Ashley and the bounty hunter living a happy ever life. This movie was convoluted, it was contrived, it was trying to be too many things at once. It was trying to be a love story, it was trying to be a comedy, it was trying to be an action gory movie, and it was also trying to be a story of someone trying to run from the past, but the past is still chasing him. And in my honest opinion, trying to be four things all at once proves that you're nothing, in my honest opinion. opinion, and I agree with all the reviews I'm seeing. I agree that this movie is hot dookie. Even though the fight scenes are good, this movie is not a movie that I would recommend watching on Valentine's Day. Damn, now I feel more lonelier than I really thought that I felt before watching this movie. That is crazy. I'm lonely on Valentine's Day. That's the end of the video though. I'm out. Peace.